just a light outline drawing. He's interested in curves and changes in planes. So, for example, on this pod, you have 4 planes. What if instead you had 13 planes? What would that look like? And so if you start thinking more cubist, that's a possibility, but you can also have rounded planes shifting as you go. So this first thing he did was show us how to do this we took our sketches and we started to lay out templates of what they would look like, what we thought they would look like out of paper. And then we started to assemble those paper. You could probably done this with like a slab box or something and done it leather hard. This is all soft construction. 100% soft construction. That's different, that's weird. At least it was for me. So I said to myself, I'm not going to be able to do all the things he's asking me to do. I'm just going to do a super simple form and think about it in terms of, instead of round, think about it in terms of what if it had flat sides. And I thought this was really easy. And it was not. It was so difficult. So I sketched it on paper. I made a paper template, and then I cut the paper and then traced it onto the tar paper. So this is roofing paper that goes under shingles. You can buy any hardware, Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever sells roofing shingles will sell tar paper. The big black roll over there, I got the whole roll for like $35 or something like that. It's going to last us through eternity, so I'm going to give you a big hunk of it to take home if you want. Because there's no way I can use it all in my lifetime. So, even if I looked at it hard, I don't think I could. So I designed this simple pot that I thought was simple, and then built it, and it was so hard to get it to stay together, and it was also ugly. And so I canned it pretty quickly. So this was my first trial and error, and I decided it was not worth it. So I set that aside.
What about it?
What's that?
What about it?
I think the complication was in the one long piece the most, instead of having more cuts. I thought less cuts were easier. Like, this is only 3 pieces, right?
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
That one long piece.
This one has 4. So you would think 4 would be a little more difficult. No, it's not. And I don't know exactly the why, but it's definitely easier with more cuts. And that became true as it got more complicated. Although you have to track them and keep up with which one goes where, it's like a giant 3D puzzle. It is somewhat easier to have multiple planes, additional planes, to some point. At some point, it just becomes ridiculously hard. So this was my next one, and I said I started with a circle design and a second circle, and then I put a reverse circle curve in between. So this is like a complete circle. So basically taking a large circle on the bottom and then a smaller circle on top, and then putting the reverse curve in between. Can you see that? So that's the reverse curve of one of those circles, or both, I don't know. So that was my sketch for that, thinking about circles and intersections of reverse curves. Thinking about making a slight curve here and a slight curve down here at the bottom of the forms, just to kind of mimic that valley, just a smidge. I was hoping for that. So I made this out of paper, and then I cut it out of the tar paper. If you've ever laid paper down on a slab and cut it, you know the paper moves and the paper gets wet, and it's not usable for too many times because the paper just doesn't hold up even when it's supposed to hold. And your tool, your cutting tool often goes kind of in and out of the wiggly. This helps. This is more permanent, and you can make multiples. So once you have a stencil out of the tar paper that works, you can make this face multiple times with the same successes. The first one and probably better skill set so you can move forward. So then after I cut this, I had to decide on how do you cut the sides. This is where it's tricky because it's not the same height. So this is not the same height. Because of the curve. Because it curves in, because it curves out. You with me? So these two, even if they were, if they were really flat and not wiggly, they are still not the same height because the curved side has that bend in it, which is going to take up some of the height. It's like when you throw a cylinder and then you put that curve in it and it sits down, and you're like, where'd my height go? Because you put that curve, you got to use the close somewhere. So this is the side. It's going to go from here. It's going to bend around. It's going to come up, and then it's going to bend around again. Kind of sort of makes sense? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. And the paper ones, when I do this with kids, I encourage them to tape them together. Tape it. Put little wads of tape, fold it, make sure it's going to fit. This is my paper stencil for this one. And if you can make it work with paper, it's going to work with clay. So if your paper's going to fit together fine, then cut the chart paper, then the clay will fit fine. Figuring out how much extra and where to put the curves. This is the part where Samshine is an ace and I am a novice. And so I guessed and he corrected, and then I guessed again and he sort of troubleshooted that correction. And this is the over my head part pretty quickly when you get to the sides. My thinking was I should be able to draw a line like this. Yeah, that sort of works. So how do you figure out the math of getting from here to here? I would say that's a great collaborative project for math.
Orthographic projection, you know, you ever take drafting classes, you had to draw what you thought the side view of something would look like. It's kind of like that, only it's not.
I never had a drafting class, so I'm not sure about that. I'm not that precise for the person. I wouldn't want to.
Yeah, it's a very odd way to think.
So yeah, so that's the part where I'm telling you tonight you need to like play with that idea of how much of a bend and how do I figure this out. And I'll show you how these two work. I'm going to build another one of these. And this was fairly simple. Then my next one, I actually built this and it's sitting in my school studio and it's still not bisque fired and Stupid broke it right before I was getting ready to come. But it wasn't bisque and I should have had bisque fired. So this is this form. It's really light, but this one has